Questions. I recognize the Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, last week in debate about Bill 5, specifically in relation to special economic zones, the government's Deputy House Leader listed 20 countries that had special economic zones. The inference was we should be more like those countries. Amongst them were Russia, Nigeria, China. So, Speaker, does the Premier agree we should be more like China or Russia?
I will ask members on the government side to please come to order. I recognize the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade.
Speaker, we've said this in this legislature plenty of times now since these tariffs have begun. We are in a war. It's an economic war with the U.S., but make no mistake, we are in a war. It has never been more important to ensure that Ontario remains competitive, to attract and land these job-creating investments around the world. We're facing a once-in-a-generation crisis with President Trump's tariffs. He's been clear. He's after our jobs. He wants our jobs. All of the industries that we've attracted here, $70 billion worth of industries we've attracted in 7 years. He wants every one of those industries to move to the States, and he wants all of those jobs. So if we sit around and do nothing, as you're suggesting, we'll be handing our jobs over to the United States on a silver platter. Speaker, we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that those jobs remain here and the new ones come here to Ontario.
Back to the Leader of the Third Party.
Minister, you are right. We are in a war. And
Through the
what
Speaker.
I was suggesting was, is the Deputy House Leader suggesting that we should be allies with China or Russia in these trade things, that we should copy them, that we should follow them? That was my question. And I think it's fair. Check Hansard. Check the autocracy index of the 20 countries that he listed. So look, special economic zones, well, Ontario is a special economic zone. And it would seem to me, when I read this bill, that economic zones are a recipe to create the Wild West, where ministers get to do whatever they want, are actually probably more likely whatever the Premier asks them to do, because that's his record. So, would the Premier agree?
Recognize the Minister of Economic Development.
Speaker, there is a chill on business around the world right now caused by President Trump's tariffs. There is so much uncertainty. Companies can't make investments because there's no clear understanding of what the political landscape is going to be. So that is a real challenge to us here in Ontario. But we view it as a window of opportunity. This move to pause all investments means there's a huge buildup of capital around the world. And when that capital is ready to be unleashed, it is going to need somewhere to land. We want it to land here in Ontario. That's why we've been moving forward with our legislation to show that Ontario is the destination of choice for all of that capital around the world looking to be put to use to build factories, to build plants, and to create jobs.
Supplementary, the Leader of the Third Party.
I think that the special opportunity is in creating the economic zones, that the government is just creating an opportunity for wealthy, well-connected insiders to get the inside track. So it's interesting that the government's first choice for a special economic zone is Ontario Place. Right? And that's the site of the Premier's latest backroom deal for $2.2 billion of taxpayers' money and a 95-year lease to a foreign company with literally no money and no experience. So I guess my question is creating special economic zones just an opportunity for more scandal with this government?
Back to the Minister of Economic Development.
Speaker, we've just returned from Japan and South Korea, and before that we were in Germany, and these businesses are grappling with the unprecedented amount of uncertainty in the global economy. They're looking for a place to invest. They're looking for stable, predictable, reliable partners who can give them that predictability. We have told them Ontario is that partner. They want to know that their projects won't be held up in red tape, bureaucracy, and lengthy permitting processes. That competition to land these investments will be unlike any competition we faced in the last generation. We need to show that Ontario is that place where you can land all of those investments and create all of those job opportunities.
Question, the Leader of the Third Party.
So, anybody who reads Bill 5 objectively knows it's just a recipe for more backroom deals. So, you take terms like special economic zones. My favorite, trusted partners. We know this government and who their trusted partners are. So, when you couple this with unfettered and unchecked ministerial power, it feels to me like the Greenbelt scandal. It feels like ministerial zoning orders. It feels like urban boundaries, where the trusted partners were wealthy, well-connected insiders who got a leg up on everyone else. Does the Premier really think that Bill 5 passes that sniff test?
Back to the Minister of Economic Development.
Speaker, over the last 7 years, we have seen unprecedented level of investment flow into the province. Over $70 billion has come here, $46 billion in auto and EV investments, $6 billion in life sciences, tens of billions of dollars in tech investment. That has helped businesses in Ontario create 1 million new jobs since we took office. Speaker, we are going to build on that progress, but we have to acknowledge the rules around the world have changed. We are facing a once-in-a-generation crisis, Speaker. If we don't adapt by cutting red tape, speeding up permitting, and speeding up the approval processes, we're going to get crushed. We refuse to allow the U.S. to take our jobs, take our industries, and that is why we're moving forward with this such an ambitious agenda, and we hope that you will join us today in passing our bills.
Back to the Leader of the Third Party.
Well, you know, I think if you take a look at this government's record on following the rules, on wealthy, well-connected insiders getting an inside track, I think Bill 5 is just a recipe for more wealthy, well-connected insiders to get the inside scoop. An inside track, a leg up, because that's the Premier's record. So, again, does anyone think in this legislature that Bill 5 is not going to lead to more scandal, more wealthy, well-connected insiders getting the inside track, the inside deal, because they know the Premier?
Minister of Economic Development.
The member talks about our record. Let's just flip that for a second and look at his record. We all watched as 300,000 manufacturing jobs fled our province. Now, there was no once-in-a-generation crisis then. There were no tariffs then. Just the breeze created by 300,000 industrial workers leaving our province. It was the Liberal promise designed to push those jobs away and crush our goods-producing sector. Now they want us to revert back to that Liberal playbook that saw us lose all those jobs. Speaker, we will refuse to do that. We will not stand by idly as President Trump tries to decimate our jobs and our industries. We're going to do every single thing in our power to protect and build on the economy that we've created here in Ontario.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Third Party.
Well, I'm old enough to remember back in 2010 when that party voted against supporting the auto industry. And I also know that for 5 years leading up to 2018, that Ontario led the G7 in jobs and growth. What's happening with this government right now?
Not that.
The highest unemployment rate in a decade. In a decade. Youth unemployment, 17%. Great record, Minister. Highest
Through the
unemployment rate in
Speaker.
10 years. So, Speaker, the government can tout its economic record, the stuff they like to look at. The reality is they're creating a bill that is going to legitimize the stuff that we've seen, like the Greenbelt, like the Therma deal, like MZOs, like urban boundaries, where insiders got the inside track because they could connect with the Premier, and the Premier said, Minister, do this. We know about that. I can hear the Minister back there. So my question is, does anybody over there actually really believe that Bill 5 is the right thing to do?
Back to the